Hey, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We're going to be right back with today's small school AD guest. But first, we want to give a shout out to our sponsors. Now, you've heard me say before, these are all companies that I worked with and used as an athletic director. You should be using them too. So take the next 3 minutes, listen to our shout outs, then listen to our interview, and then go visit each one of these sponsors. I'm telling you, you're going to be glad you did. Here we go. We want to say thanks to our good friends at Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. I don't think I need to say anything more. Go to hometownticketing.com. It's digital ticketing that offers more. We want to say thank you to Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and you can schedule a live web demo, see their products in action. Probably one of the best purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. We want to say thanks to Snap Raise. I'll bet you have used a fundraiser before and you probably ended up disappointed with the results. No more. Go to snapraise.com. It's hands down the best online fundraiser out there. We used it at our school with our teams because it works. Go to snapraise.com. Check out their other great platforms. But if you're looking for a fundraiser, you just found it. Snapraise.com. We also want to say thanks to Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure that our school was a Huddle school. And our coaches, all of our coaches, just loved it. Our kids loved it for the videos. Our parents loved it for the streaming, but there's a lot more. Go to huddle.com, join the 8 million users, turn your school into a Huddle school. We want to say thanks to Vital Signs Wall of Fame. If you've been looking for a really cool way to display your school record board for all the teams, for all the events, or your school's Hall of Fame, go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. Take a look at their interactive touch screen video consoles. It's also a great way to share your school's unique history and your proudest moments. The website is vitalsignswalloffame.com. We also want to thank the Ohio University Online Masters in Athletic Administration. This is an affordable 20-month, completely online master's program where you also earn 11 NIAAA leadership training courses to go towards your CAA. To get started, just go to ohio.edu/info/MAA, the Ohio University Online Masters. We'd like to thank Home Campus for their support. Home Campus is a platform that you're going to use every day, whether it's, schedules, rosters, final scores. How about student athlete eligibility and clearance? Who doesn't do that every day? Go to homecampus.com. They do all of these things and they do them better and they do it faster. That's homecampus.com. We also want to say thanks to Gipper. Your kids are on social media, so are a lot of their parents. If you're not creating content to celebrate their accomplishments and promote your program, you're really missing out. Go to Gipper.com. They'll have you creating world-class content in seconds, and it's incredibly easy to do. The website is Gipper.com. And we want to say thank you to Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. Athletic directors already get feedback, but it's usually from a very small group that just wants to complain. Athletic surveys will connect you to that group, but they're also going to connect you to the 98% of your stakeholders that support your program. And the data that you collect is incredibly valuable, especially when you're meeting with that frustrated parent, maybe your principal, or even your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of everybody in your program. That's athleticsurveys.com. Check them out today. Welcome back, everybody, to another segment of Small School Athletic Director on the Educational AD Podcast. This is our weekly series where we have athletic directors from across the country from smaller schools. And our definition of a small school is about 300 or so in the high school or the upper four grades if it's a combined school. Our guest today is James Torres. He is a certified athletic administrator. and he's the director of athletics and the dean of students at the Roycemore School, and that's in Evanston, Illinois. James, welcome to Small School AD.
Hey, thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Well, again, you and I were talking. It's summertime. Hopefully, all our listeners are getting some good relaxation, but school's going to be here before you know it. So, James, share with our listeners a little bit about your journey. Tell them about your school so they've got an idea of what you're working with. And then I'm excited to hear what you have to share with them on Small School AD.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I'm a student athlete myself. Was a wrestler and football player in high school, as well as I ran track and played baseball. Wrestled for Indiana University, um, and attempted to make a senior world team in my early 20s. Started off as a 12-year college wrestling coach, as well as administrator, serving at some of the smaller schools, Division III schools and NAIA schools, where I had held administrative roles as well, all throughout athletics. And then finally, I moved to George Mason University, where I was the associate head wrestling coach. Then I made the shift to the secondary schools, where I served as the associate athletic director and wrestling coordinator for the Baylor School down in Chattanooga, Tennessee. After that, I became the director of athletics here, actually in Evanston, for Beacon Academy, which is a standalone 9 through 12 independent school. And now I have recently accepted the role as the Dean of Student Life and Athletic Director for the Roycemore School here in Evanston. So a little bit about Roycemore. Roycemore is a PK through 12 institution here with just under 350 total students for the entire school. Our upper school right now is at 75, but we have a more robust K through 12, or excuse me, K through 8 program. I'm actually here for those challenges. I have served as the president of the Lakeshore Athletic League here in the city of Chicago, which Roycemore and my previous school are a part of. So I have a bit of a, understanding of who Roycemore is and what the athletic department consists of. We're fairly small right now. We offer the two running programs. By that I mean cross country and track, as well as volleyballs in both seasons of fall and spring, which is separated by gender, and then both basketball programs. The goal right now is to look at what sustainability looks like here for Roycemore, and build a culture within our K through 8 program. As I've been having conversations with some of my colleagues here, learning a little bit more about the school, I'm now putting together and formulating a different plan than I originally came in with. And as we know, depending on school to school and their identity, we might have certain plans that we've executed at our previous stops. I don't know if this is the institution that's going to take all of my rules and profiles that I've used in the past. But in the meantime, currently what I'm doing is actually establishing an advisory team. This advisory team will consist of colleagues outside of athletics. I'm really looking at a creative way of how we can reimagine athletics here for our upper school outside of our signature sports that represent the school in the conference. So by that, I mean partnerships with some of the boxing programs here in the area, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and martial arts. We're looking at establishing a rucking program. We're looking at making movement a lifestyle, not just for our students, but also for our parents and our faculty. So we've been engaging in those conversations. So this advisory board right now is consisting of the associate head wrestling coach at Indiana University, the vice president of marketing for a sports agency here in Chicago, but they're based out of Paris. And if I can remember the name of it, I'm not going to try to stumble over that right now. Another one is in the consulting business, but a former CEO of a insurance company. But the idea behind this advisory committee, every one of the people that I'm selecting and reaching out to for this network system, they are all former college athletes. I want to get some real athletic minds in here to help me think about athletics outside the box. One of the goals of this advisory board is not only to advise me on current trends, but also to help identify with sponsorships, fundraising, and truly friend raising to this program. It's also going to include some of our alumni from the Roycemore School. And one thing that I think is important to know for Roycemore is it's 109 years old, so it's well established here in the city of Evanston. In fact, I met someone randomly. This is a fast fact. I met someone randomly through my aunt who just retired from the University of Chicago. That individual remembered Roycemore growing up here in Evanston, although he was at a Evanston Township High School alumni. Knew all about knew all about Roycemore, where they walked across the street to get to ETHS. You had to pass it from his home that he grew up in. So just to give you an idea of the history of Roycemore. And now, these folks are going to help guide me or guide us into the future. Another thing that we're assembling is what we're calling the Griffin Athletic Advisory Board, which is going to be a makeup of student athletes here who can provide me with some input and feedback on their needs and wants. I'm also investigating something that a colleague shared with me the other day about a parents advisory board, about some of the needs and wants that sometimes go overlooked in athletic departments. So everybody has their own systems in place that they want to use when they arrive or after they've established themselves. But one of the things I really want to try to hit a home run with is communication. I want to be able to streamline communication for our parents to make sure everybody's engaged with our schedule. And that seems to have been, there's a breakdown here between too many channels. And so really streamlining that. I may not have mentioned, but I've been a spokesperson for the Band app. And if you're unfamiliar with it, it's a free app that we can use. I instituted it at the Baylor, or excuse me, at Beacon Academy, and it absolutely streamlined everything that we did from scheduling, streaming, to even providing the necessary forms for the beginning of the year with the pre-athletic, physical forms. So things of that nature. So I'm investigating that because I want to make sure that when I convey this message to our parents, I want to ensure to them, I want them to have the feeling of ownership, but at the same time, I want them to understand that this advisory, the way I'm looking for them to advise is how can I make this an easier experience for them? And then right now I'm going to be polling and surveying our entire faculty to see, historically, what can they tell me about the athletic department? What are some of the things that how athletics has impacted their lives? Because the idea that we want is to make this an overall experience for our entire community, not just for the people involved in athletics. So with that said, there's a lot of communication going on right now. It's been pretty fun. I'm going through a lot of things, looking at, I think I mentioned this previously in another conversation. This is a good year because this is the Olympics. So I'm a little bit more inspired in ways where I'm looking at opportunities for our kids because I think some of the trends nationally have been, we have athletic departments who are the traditional powerhouses who exceed in the footballs, the basketballs, the soccers. And then we have smaller schools where you have to get a little bit more creative. Sometimes people hand select smaller schools because it's not as overwhelming to them socially. And these schools focus on the social and emotional learning aspect of education. And that's how I want to see a more robust athletic department here is by also being able to provide that social and emotional learning aspect of non-competitive movement opportunities or our activities. And so some of the activities that we're looking at, I've been sharing with my colleagues here, we're looking at sailing, pickleball, a walking club, a CrossFit club, a bike assembly club, badminton, some tumbling, archery, handball, squash, tennis, and ping pong. I think I mentioned before, we're looking into some martial arts programs, but the martial arts programs that we're looking at are judo, karate, and Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So, things that are going to help, one, move us into a wellness aspect of what we want to lay out, as well as those opportunities to develop self-awareness and confidence for our, growing adolescent community. So I think, from my perspective, with small schools, you have to get creative with your community. I think we also have to be extraordinarily versatile with how we come in with a mindset. Being a former Division I athlete, my mindset used to be it's my way or the highway. What do you know? Because you didn't do what I've done, and you learn pretty quickly that's not any way to enter a new space. And so it's really about embracing our community. And sometimes I may not agree with everything our students want, but my job as an administrator is to create a better overall experience for every student who goes through this athletic department. And so for me in this situation, student life engulfs physical education. It engulfs our athletic programs, and it also engulfs our, the activities that we're going to be providing.
Wow.
Um,
A lot of stuff there. The thing that I liked is as you were sharing, I got a couple of things, an overall theme of communication. The school's been around for 109 years. Not everybody has that history, and it's important to acknowledge it. And you're reaching out to alums, to current faculty, former families, that sort of thing. I think that's a mistake sometimes that athletic directors make. They come into a new position and they've got all these great ideas, but they haven't shared them. They haven't tested the waters. They haven't taken the pulse. So good for you on all of that. And again, you just addressed it a second ago. Most ADs are not D1, but they were probably high school, and in that case, college athletes. But in a high school athletic program, 6% or less are going to go on and compete at the college level. So why don't we focus a little bit on the 94% of our student athletes? They're still high school student athletes, and make sure
right.
they have a great experience. Very cool stuff. Um, James, I'd love to get you back on for a longer conversation. I think you had a lot to share, but for right now, if one of our listeners wanted to reach out, pick your brain a little bit, find out some of the plans that you have in store for Roycemore, what's the best way they can get a hold of you?
Oh, definitely through my work email, which is jtorres@roycemoreschool.org. You can also find us online at roycemoreschool.org as well.
Okay. And
I'm also
James,
on LinkedIn, most of the social medias, but LinkedIn is probably the easiest way to get a hold of me. James Torres, nice and easy.
I was just going to mention that James is definitely on LinkedIn. James, thanks again for sharing with our listeners. All the best moving forward. And hopefully our paths are going to cross down the road, maybe at this year's national conference in Austin.
That's right. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. I look forward to hearing from you again.
Oh, absolutely. For our listeners, we want to say thanks to you and remind you that we upload the Zoom recordings of all of our interviews to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We do this segment every week, and just about every day, we try to share stories and best practices for athletic directors and leaders. So hopefully, you'll come back and join us again on another episode of Small School AD on the Educational AD Podcast. We'll see you next time. Hey, before you go, we want to encourage you to check out our sponsors in your spare time. That's Gipper, Huddle, Hometown Ticketing, Home Campus, Sideline Interactive, Ohio University's Online Masters, Vital Signs Wall of Fame, Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack, and Snap Raise. I used every single one of these. I trust them. They trust me. I want you to trust them too. Check them all out. You're going to be glad you did. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time on Small School AD on the Educational AD Podcast.